Imagine if you could easily find solutions to make your region or city smarter, greener, better connected, more social, and closer to citizens. The Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform can help you access knowledge about the latest policy trends, discover expert-validated good practices from all over Europe, find solutions in our peer review, get tailored support from our expert team. We can connect you with the right people and organizations. Together, we will find ways to solve your region's or city's challenges. Start your policy learning journey today.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We are very happy to be here with you this afternoon to discuss a very interesting topic on leveraging European funding in small urban areas. So welcome from my side. My name is Arnault Morisson. I'm one of the thematic experts for Europe Closer to Citizens at the Policy Learning Platform. And this afternoon, I'm co-moderating this webinar with Astrid. Astrid, how are you this afternoon?
Thanks, I'm very well. Thank you very much.
Super. And we also have Lotte with us. Good to have you with us. And of course, please, participants, the goal of a webinar is to make it as interactive as possible. We want you to ask questions in the chat, and please use the chat for questions. Today's webinar, we have three excellent speakers with us. We're very happy to have them. We have Carlotta. Carlotta, how are you this afternoon?
Hi, very well, thank you.
Super.
Hello.
And Carlotta will tell us a little bit more about sustainable urban developments for small urban areas. We also have Andrés with us from Spain, Las Palmas. How are you, Andrés? You muted, but it's good to have you with us. And you will tell us a little bit more about this good practice from Las Palmas, Ciudad del Mar, so the city of the sea, if I speak Spanish correctly. And last but not least, we have Egons with us from Ventspils City Council from Latvia. Good to have you with us. And we will look at this digital center in Latvia. So very interesting, good practices as well. All right, before we move on to our presentations, a few words about Interreg Europe. So Interreg Europe is a very unique program that covers all cohesion priorities, all European regions, all European countries, plus Switzerland and Norway. And we also have 7 new countries, so great to have them with us. We have Ukraine, Moldova, and Balkan countries. And they can now participate in projects, but also using our policy learning platform services. And I've seen that we have quite a few participants from Ukraine, so welcome. And please, you can send us questions, policy help desk, and we will be happy to help you. So Interreg Europe is all about capacity building to improve regional development policies. And the way we do that is through the exchange of experience, good practices, and so on. So there are 2 main actions. The first one is about the projects, and projects are for regions to exchange knowledge, practices on the specific policy questions, policy issues. And the second action is a policy learning platform. And the policy learning platform is all about capitalizing all the knowledge from all the Interreg Europe projects. And the goal, what we aim to do, is to diffuse this knowledge to as many people, policymakers, as possible. So what do we do at the policy learning platform? Very quickly, we provide access to knowledge, and we do that through writing policy briefs, stories, articles, We provide access to people as well, and we do that through a workshop or thematic webinars as we are doing today. And we provide tailored and targeted expert support to, for instance, the policy help desk. Very straightforward process. You send us the questions and we will gather like good practices and knowledge from the policy learning platform. And one of our very popular, most popular services is the peer review and the matchmaking. And Astrid, you have conducted recently many peer reviews. So can you tell us a little bit about them and about the process?
Yes, so this is a 2-day special service where you can ask your policy challenge directly to the policy learning platform, and the policy learning platform will help again with capacity building and exchange of experiences through this 2-day event. So there are some peers, some like-minded people with similar challenges which are coming to your region. And as some examples, we have recently had a peer review for the city of Magdeburg in Germany, who were looking at the governance and digitalization of their fortress heritage and how they could rehabilitate physical spaces, for example, and integrate the heritage into green belts with and for their citizens. But we have also talked with Kilkenny or Évora in Portugal, who were looking more at mobility challenges. So that was also very interesting. Kilkenny wanted to develop the 10-minute city and have more active transport measures. And Évora was looking at mobility as a service. So also some good ideas for small urban areas.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Astrid. And again, very easy process. You send an application and we take care of the rest. You can also use matchmakings. It's a sort of mini peer reviews, only 2 hours, where we bring some peers and we discuss your policy challenge as well. And it's a very easy process. So please do not hesitate to contact us to discuss those services. And they are totally free as well for you, so it's good. A little bit about the topic of today's webinar. So of course, we're going to talk about European funding and small urban areas. So what are small urban areas? Usually they are defined as towns with a population between 5,000 and 50,000 inhabitants at the European level. But of course, this definition is highly context dependent. So it's different if you are in France and Germany than if you are like in Montenegro or Hungary. So the size matters here. But usually when we talk about small urban areas, between 5,000 and 50,000 inhabitants. They are highly diverse and they collectively house 43% of the EU population. So not all the EU population lives in those big metropolitan cities, but also in small urban areas. And what is interesting is they have very specific and different societal challenges that can range from aging population to brain drain to climate change, the importance of digital transition as well. And we can think about socio-economic transitions, think about region going through some energy transition. And I think, Astrid, you had some peer reviews with coal transition and so on. So, of course, those small urban areas, they require specific policy responses to those very complex societal challenges. Until recently, European policy were kind of overlooking those small urban areas and they were feeling kind of left behind, right? And some key insights from accessing European funding, but we will talk more about it. And I think, Carlotta, you have plenty of things to tell us about that. Small urban areas, they must cultivate this type of leadership, mobilizing their communities. Of course, you need to have capacities, institutional legal capacities to punch above the weight of being a small city. And also what is important is to cultivate resilience to navigate those uncertainties in the European policy landscape. All right, before we move on to presentation, we have a short poll for you. 2 questions, very short. So we ask you to, either scan the QR code or either join the Slido, and this is the room number, and to tell us a little bit about you and to know whether you're living in a small urban area. Again, are you living in a small urban area with a population between 5,000 and 50,000 inhabitants? So it's easy. It's either like a yes or no. So there is a lot of no's. Okay. For now on, 80%, 22. Okay, so 80, 20%. Okay, that's good. 27 have already participated to the pool. Okay, so it's more or less that. So we have 20%, 25% of participants living in small urban areas. All right, and for those 26, okay, and for those participants living in small urban areas, we want to know what type of European funds have you used in your small urban areas, and we have a list here of different type of European funds that can be used in small urban areas, and they can be leveraged. So it can be, cities missions, it can be ERDF, it can be Interreg, Urbact, Just Transition Fund, of course, European Agricultural Fund for Rural Development. You can think about leader actions and so on. We have community-led local development as well. And we wrote a very nice story with Astrid on community-led local development in Slovenia. And it can be used to empower citizens to take actions and so on. So, right, we have other as well, 20%. So if you can tell us in the chat what are other European funds you've been using, that would be great. But we can see, okay, mostly European Regional Development Fund, Interreg, new European Bowels Initiative. Okay, that's interesting. Backed, and European Agricultural Fund for Rural Development. All right, great. Thanks so much for participating. And last but not least, we want to tell you that the policy learning platform can help you to design and deliver better policies, even in small urban areas. And we have many good practices that you can use at any point. This good practice from the city of Fundão that is very interesting in Portugal, where they've been developing these business and shared service centers to attract ICT companies in a very remote small urban areas in Portugal. We are going to see with Egons this good practice from the digital centers in Ventspils. But with Astrid, we're also conducting peer reviews on this similar topic, looking at problematic gender inclusive urban policies. And we are going to go to Valenciennes very soon in April, so it's going to be very interesting. And we also wrote a policy brief on approaches for rural low carbon economy. So again, thanks so much. From my side, we can move to first presentations here. Please, participants, use the chat to ask questions to our speakers. And Carlotta, the floor is yours, and you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thanks. Thank you, Arnaud. I'm just going to share my screen. 1 second. Okay, can you tell me if you can see it well?
It's perfect. Thanks, Carlotta. Yeah, it's good.
Okay. So, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to share with you some of the findings of the research I've been doing about sustainable urban development for small urban areas. As a short introduction, what Arnaud has just said, although small urban areas has been overlooked for a long time in the EU urban discourse, more recently things have changed. And why has changed? Well, first of all, because at political level, there was the acknowledgement that the so-called left behind places that are usually smaller, and they are referred to often as the places that don't matter, do matter. And also because of the convergence of urban, territorial, and rural policies. As a matter of fact, there has been a growing interest for small urban areas in the EU policy discourse. And in fact, the Riga Declaration from 2015 has enacted specifically on small and medium-sized cities. Within this framework, 1 year ago, the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, together with DG Regio, published a report, the Policy Atlas of Sustainable Urban Development from Small Urban Areas. And at that time, I was coordinating this research. So I will give you some of the main findings from this publication that it's available online. You can find it easily. And in particular, on the second part of this publication that is focusing more on the policy side and on funding. Of course, it talks about small urban areas as defined by Arnault before. So those settlements with a population in between 5,000 and 50,000 inhabitants. Basically, we are talking about towns. And within this research, what we did was first analyzing all those direct funding programs and initiatives. Direct in the sense that are EU initiatives to which urban areas can apply directly. And we analyzed the existing database of them. For example, some of the ones that have been mentioned before: Urbact, Urban Innovative Action, New European Bauhaus, Covenant of Mayor. And although there are no, or only a few, let's say, specific initiatives for small urban areas, the majority of them are simply focusing about urban development for all types of areas. What we notice is a growing participation of small urban areas among the applicants. This means that, in fact, small urban areas are putting forward very interesting projects and solutions in order to tackle their challenges. And we tried to collect them and categorize them into 5 main policy approaches. So I don't have time now to go into the detail of those policy approaches, but you can find them in the report, and you will find also several examples from different cities across the EU. One of the main, let's say, conclusion that we can find from this analysis is that this type of policy approach is more than tailored for small towns. They often seem to be adapted. And why this happened? Well, probably because, as I said before, the majority of these initiatives are not specific for small urban areas. So often their priorities, their rule of the games as well, has been designed and set thinking about larger cities. Then another part of the report, quite important, is focusing on sustainable urban development within cohesion policy. So in this case, we are talking about mainstream funding and in-share management, where the EU is providing this funding that are managed together with the member states through their operational programs. In particular, the European Regional Development Funds promote this type of funds that target all types of urban areas, and that they can be used through strategies designed by the urban authorities. This is a measure that is compulsory for member states. In the current programming period, they count for 8% of the ERDF. So we are talking about 17 billion euros. So it's quite an important source of funding at EU level. And what we did is we classified the 1,000 strategies of sustainable urban development that were implemented in the past programming period. We classified them according to the degree of urbanization of the settlement that they were targeting. And what we discover is that half of them, so we are talking about 507 strategies, targeted in fact a small urban area, a town. So it's not surprising that before in the slide we saw that the first source of funding for small urban areas was ERDF. This is one of the main source of funding for small urban areas currently. And for this reason, it's really important. We looked a bit into the characteristics of these type of strategies, especially in comparison to the one of larger cities. And what we notice is first is that they have small budgets. The majority of cases, they allocated less than 5 million euro. And then in comparison to larger cities strategy, they focus more on topics linked with the rehabilitation of the physical space. They combine smaller numbers of thematic objectives that in the current programming period are policy objective, and a smaller number of funds. In a way, they are, let's say, less ambitious, less complex than strategies in larger cities. We did also a series of case studies. One of them is Ventspils, and we will learn about it later on more in detail. So now I don't have time to go in the detail of the cases, but what we saw is first high diversity of the different small urban areas across the EU in terms of typology of trends. Often they were struggling with limited resources, limited administrative and strategic capacity, and there were some recurrent policy challenges that they sometimes were handling also with innovative and interesting ways. So the main policy challenges were citizen participation, stakeholder involvement, and what interests probably us most, mix of funding resources. So this is a key theme for small urban areas, and sometimes it can be also a burden in terms of bureaucracy for smaller local authorities. And then the last thing, many projects implemented through these strategies, they were focusing on reactivating places for people of community, meaning that there were projects of refunctionalization of underused buildings or sites in a way less, let's say, more traditional kind of projects. So to conclude, and this is my last slide, we can say that currently there is a window of opportunity for small urban areas at EU level. This because there is an acknowledgement of the important role that small urban areas play at EU level and the assets that they have. There are also several funding opportunities that are open to small urban areas, both in terms of direct and shared management, in particular cohesion policy mainstream funding for sustainable urban development. At the same time, I think that there are some obstacles that prevent small urban areas from strategically developing strong and innovative responses to today's global challenges, and I will mention three main. The first thing is that there is a lack of data and knowledge on the specific trends that do characterize small urban areas, so there is a need for more research on them. The second point is that in the majority of cases, policy tools and initiatives are not specific for small urban areas, so we need for new methodologies and policy instruments better tailored to them. And finally, often small urban areas lack of expertise in accessing and managing funding, and also in some cases in terms of strategic capacity. So we need for more capacity building and networking for them, and this initiative is for sure one of them. So that was my last slide. Thanks a lot for the attention.
Thanks so much, Carlotta. That was super interesting. I recommend everyone to read the report because it's very, very well done, very informative with plenty of good insights on how to leverage funding as well in small urban areas. Carlotta, before we move on, I've got a question. I think maybe Astrid has another question for you. What is interesting is, when we presented our good practices, we mentioned Ventspils and Fondao, and there are some of your case studies as well. So I was wondering, how did you select those case studies? Were they based on their capacity to leverage European funding or European initiatives, or did you select them?
Well, we selected them according to the characteristic of the strategy that they implemented in the past programming period. So we tried, first of all, to focus on different geographical areas. Secondly, Also, we looked at the type of project that they were implementing. No, so for example, if they were focusing more on innovation, if they were focusing more on sustainability and environment, things like that. So, in fact, as I told before, what we notice is that there is a high diversity. We don't have to think that small urban areas are the same, nor that the policy that they are implementing are the same.
All right. Astrid?
Yeah, well, I also wanted to say, first of all, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. One of the things that you mentioned was that the projects or the programs that small urban areas are choosing are less ambitious or less complex than in bigger cities. So my first question is like, do you think that's necessarily a problem, or is that even a good thing to do?
Well, it's not necessarily a problem in the sense that the objective of sustainable urban development strategies is first to be integrated. And in order to have integrated strategies, meaning to blend together, let's say, different policy sectors. One way of doing it is maybe putting together different funds, different thematic objectives. So we can say that this is probably the way that larger cities are following and not smaller urban areas. This doesn't mean that a strategy cannot be integrated if it has only one fund or one thematic objective is a bit difficult, maybe too. But at the same time, there is the need of understanding very well how the policy instrument work in order to be able to produce an integrated strategy also with these maybe limited resources or limited number of funding sources.
All right. Thanks, Astrid.
May
Yes,
I
go
ask
ahead.
one more, please? The other thing, so thank you very much for this, because very interesting when we talk about funding, if you cannot do the blending thing too well. And the other thing you mentioned is that they are going more for the smaller projects, even if they're ERDF projects under 5 million, what you mentioned. So is that, you think, because of the co-financing that has to be provided, or is that because of the nature of the projects that are being financed?
Not necessarily the nature of the project. So these strategies usually finance more than one project. Maybe they have having a smaller amount of funds means that they have a smaller amount of projects within the strategy. And then, of course, in the case in which is a more holistic, let's say, broad strategy, the small size of the city doesn't require the same amount of money that, for example, for a large metropolis. This is, of course. But again, probably it is possible to do good strategies also with less. So again, I think that here the point is finding, prioritizing, finding what are the key projects that can be put into place in order to trigger a change in the city, in the trajectory of the city, and then focusing on those maybe 2-3 key projects also with a small amount of funding.
All right. Thanks, Astrid, for your question. Thanks, Carlotta. We received many questions in the chat, so that's very good. We received one question from Elena, and Elena is asking, from the case studies that you presented, is there one case of a town that did very well in leveraging funds in revitalizing their town? And if so, why? What were the main reasons for this successful transformation?
Well, first of all, we, especially for what concerns the part of the report that looks at sustainable urban development strategies, we didn't look necessarily for good practices. What we were looking more, it was practices in general and seeing what are the policy challenges in order to provide also for recommendations that are useful for everybody. But for example, it is true that some of the case studies are successful. You mentioned one before, also from Dow. We will see later on Ventspils. What characterized both these cases is that they were able to leverage both on mainstream funding, cohesion policy, sustainable urban development, and other initiatives. For example, Ventspils, also urban innovative action. So, of course, to access this direct funding, you must be competitive also in respect to larger cities. So I don't have a recipe now. Maybe we can ask later on to Egon how
Yes.
did they do to be able to assess both type of funding.
Yeah, for sure. We'll follow up on that. Etienne asked also regarding sustainable urban development strategies. Their implementation is not evenly covering the EU territories. Looking at the example of Germany, where it's very located in the east. In Poland, it tackles mostly like big cities. So is there like a reason to explain those differences?
Yeah, as I said before, this type of funding is called in shared management in the sense that they are managed together by the EU together with the member states, and it depends a lot on the strategy that member state has. And if they are managing this fund at a national level or a regional level. So for this reason, you can see, for example, no, talking about last programming period, a member state like Spain, they decided to manage these strategies at national level, and they are more evenly distributed across the entire country. While in the case of countries where they manage at regional level, maybe they can be focused more on a region. This is the reason why there is this difference.
All right, interesting. Thanks, Carlotta. And last question for you, Carlotta, from Gancho, and asking, the lack of capacities, expertise, skills, and knowledge. Is it like this big hindrance to leverage European funding? What do you think?
Well, it is an obstacle, but it's not an obstacle that cannot be overcome. In my view, a key role is played by intermediate level bodies that can help smaller cities and towns in this sense. Regions, local development agencies, this kind of intermediate level in between the small towns and the national ministries and the EU. This is a key level in order to, let's say, strengthen the capacity of smaller towns.
All right. Thanks so much, Carlotta, and thanks so much to participants for your questions. We'll come back to new questions as well during the panel discussion. Let's stay with us, Carlotta, and please, participants, if you have any other questions, please use the chat. We move to Spain, Las Palmas. Andrés, the floor is yours, and we look forward to hearing more about your good practice.
Okay, thank you, Arnault. Thank you, Carlotta. Very interesting, your presentation. Thanks so much. I'll try to share my presentation here. All right. Well, first of all, I would like to introduce Las Palmas because we are a city far from Madrid, 100.
Just one thing, Andrés, can you make it in a full screen mode?
Oh, yeah. Is it okay?
It's perfect now. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. So, as I said you before, Las Palmas is not in the map here because we live very close to Mauritania and Morocco. Only 100 kilometers are far from here, and we live very far from Madrid. In fact, we are in 2 hours and a half by plane and 1,800 kilometers. So Las Palmas is not exactly a small city. It's a medium city because We have approximately 400,000 inhabitants in our city. In all the island, we have almost 1 million of people living here now. And it's one of the two capitals of the Canary Islands and the capital of Gran Canaria Island. We have approximately 25% of the GDP in our city, and it's the most important economical city in Canary Island. So in the last years, we have been growing up despite the pandemic, but despite this, Canary Island and Gran Canaria too is not in the middle of the incomes of Europe and of course of Spain. We have average income lower than the median or the average. Because of that, some years ago, in 2021, the city start a new plan in order to have an idea, a common goal to work all together in order to change our reality, because it was hard. It was hard because of our loss of competitiveness, not only in regional, moreover in international terms too. So because of that, the city think about which was their future. And one of the image of the collective image of our vision was the sea, because we live in an island and we have an internal ecosystem very well focused in all the issues linked to the sea. Working in this area, some years after, the European Union approved the first strategy focused on the sea, the blue growth. So we do a specific plan with all the main administrations, the local administrations, regional and national administration too, in order to have a big consensus with the private sector, the university, and other societal and internal main representatives to have an agreement about the main projects to transform our reality linked to the sea. Our project has been implemented since 2014 till now, and in fact, some years ago, in 2017, the European Commission, through the Atlantic City Association, gave us an award because of this step-by-step plan. No? Nowadays, we have a specific strategy, call it Estrategia de Ciudad de Mar, focus on 4 pillars. That pillars has 4 elements, which are governance, democratization, which is focusing engage the people, the citizens in the sea activities, economic promotion, and sustainability. I have here some pictures to give you specific examples about how we are implementing this strategy in specific areas or projects, of course, with European fundings. As Carlotta said before, we have a mix of different fundings implementing to do this transformation, because without money, we only had ideas. And with money, the facts are facts, and they can change our incomes or our employees. So here in the first picture, this is a meeting between the policies and companies talking about to create a regatta, which we have been working with Portugal, France, and other countries like Ireland. And we have new regattas in order to increase the nautical sector, the tourist sector linked to these elements. No? On the other hand, we create 10 years ago an internal fair, which was called FIMA, to promote our products and to promote our international focus in the repair sector, which is one of the best practices. Because 10 years ago, we did not any kind of these big boats to repair in Canary Island, and we do now for all the boats which are operating in the Guinea Gulf, and they are doing here. And we are doing this not only in industrial boats, we are doing that in nautical terms too. So we have been growing up in our tangible and intangible assets to give new opportunities to our society. Not only that, we need to increase the local practitioners linked to the sea, because they are not only good for the health, it is good for our economy too, because the little companies can sell boats, can sell elements. We have a bigger stock in relation to the repair sector, etc. And finally, our focus in the main term is to increase the social cohesion through the sea. In fact, we have been working in other two areas, digitalization and CO2 emissions. We have here the first aerogenerator in aeolic terms in Las Palmas, and we are one of the pioneers in Spain in cohesion through the sea too, no? Nowadays, we have the first specific center in Spain, which was started last year, focuses in big data and in technologies, only in ports and beaches. And this is working now. We have 30 companies from all the state, from the whole Spain, and they are working here. The port of Las Palmas is the third important in Spain, and is the main port in the middle of Atlantic. So we are very international. Nowadays, we are developing different programs to promote the social cohesion through the sea. We are cooperating with different cities in Europe through European projects. And we are the vice president of the World Surf City Networks. And we cooperate with other cities around the world too. And this was created after City of Sea was approved, no? And now, as I said before, we have here the first deep sea offshore turbine in Spain. And finally, the last year, we have finished a digitalization transformation project. Now we have all the beach of Las Canteras and other two beaches, which are called Alcarabaneras and La Laja, monitorized. We have sensors to know how many people are where and in what moment. And we are doing monitoring about the sea transformations and the sea coast, because we live about our economy is based on the tourism, and we need to know what is happening in the sea and what is going to happen in the next year with the sea level, no? So for us, this is very basic. Finally, to conclude, I would like to share only 3 lessons to learn, because we have do some things good and others not so good, and we have some lessons to learn to share with other colleagues. First of all, we need to consolidate a space of discussing, not only with experts. We need to discuss with the citizens. And this is a picture about how we do the micro area of Las Canteras, and we meet there all the main representatives, vecinal and citizens representatives, one time per year or one time per each strategic project to discuss, to have consensus. The second, and it's linked to the previous, is the shared vision. If you discuss, you can have the same vision. And this picture was done by citizens, children, and experts, for instance, no? Share vision. And finally, patience and understanding, because the European funds are wonderful, but the bureaucracy, it's not so good. And the Spanish law are at this moment not focused on the efficiency and the effectiveness. It's only focused on the legal. And this is a problem because the society wants very fast answers, but our brain is not so fast. And we need to explain this, because if people don't know our administrative time, they can lose their hope in our projects. That's all. I hope to be on time. Thank you, Arnaud.
Thanks so
Thank you,
much.
Astrid.
Thanks so much, Andrés. That was really fascinating. I mean, I really like the approach you've taken, like with this integrated strategy. So moving up value chains, inclusive surf, deep sea offshore turbines, smart beaches, and so on. So that's really interesting. And I think it aligns well with what you know, sustainable urban development is all about, like tackling different cohesion priorities within an integrated strategy way. So that was very interesting. I've got a question for you before we move on, and maybe Astrid has a question as well. When you started thinking about the strategy in 2010, were you thinking about the blue economy and blue growth because you were thinking that at the European level, there will be some funding opportunities at some point? I mean, we see now there's Horizon Europe missions around the ocean. So were you thinking of aligning yourself with potential funding, European funding sources at some point?
Okay. No, in fact, in the City of Sea Department started on 2014, but as you said, the city strategy started some years before, 4 years before, and we had many problems in 2010 because, for example, our port is one of the most important ports in the Atlantic Medium, and it's the third important port in Spain, so it's very big, and it is very important for our local employees. But in 2010, Morocco did a special agreement with the European Union, and all the fishes, all the boats which was operating in our port were there. So we need to transform our lines of business in the port activities and our line, including the tourism too, because some years ago started to operate through internet booking and platforms which are very usually now. Here, the tour operators have been losing market since then to now. So it was a strategy for survive.
Yeah, super interesting. Astrid, any question before we move on?
Yeah, thank you very much, Arnaud. Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you also just said, is really the need to change something, the need so that you can survive with your economy, with your citizens, and a very good approach that you have chosen here for this participatory approach, creating a vision together in a common element, which is the sea. I think that's has been very clever what you have been doing. You spoke to us that you used different funds, you mix different fundings. At the same time, you also said it's very difficult, very complex to acquire EU funding. So how did you do that? Carlotta mentioned the intermediaries. Is there like a specific intermediary that you used, or did you dedicate somebody to work on funding, for example, to help you to acquire those?
Well, as I said you, first of all, we did a consensus focus and vision about the project. So some projects are not only in the city hall, which is the administration in which I work. So we have some projects, and other projects have other leaders in the island or in the city, and we cooperate between us. For instance, Cabildo de Gran Canaria is the leader of the project about the startups focusing the technology C, and we cooperate with them. But we are the leader, for instance, in a Smart Beach, and they cooperate with us. And this focus, in order to have different leaders in different areas, is very useful for us because our island is short and the EU funds are complex. Our capacity of manage this kind of funds is very limited. But if we share our vision, we have more opportunities to have successful.
All right. Thanks so much, Andrés. Thanks, Astrid. We move on. Stay with us, Andrés, for panel discussion. We move from the south of Europe to the north. We move to Latvia. Egons, Ventspils, the floor is yours, and you have 10 minutes for your presentation. And you muted, we cannot hear you.
Yeah,
Yes,
sorry.
good. Perfect.
Thanks. Thank you. It is quite challenging to be speaking in front of such wide audience. I understand that from the questions that are asked that people are eager to know all nuances and how it gets there and something. So I will try to explain what it took from my point of view. I'm working for last 24 years in Ventspils. It's sixth largest municipality in Latvia. But actually Latvia is a bit strange country because we have a capital, Riga, and the rest of cities are rather small. The capital is like 650, and the next largest city is around 100,000 inhabitants. So the Ventspils is the sixth largest and only 36,000 inhabitants at all. So basically, we fall under the definition of small city, small town, even as now it's called in Europe usually. We are located on the Baltic coast, and during the Soviet times, it was one of few non-freezing ports in Soviet Union. So we were very port-based infrastructure. Everything was related to port, and nothing more was developed in the city. We even in Soviet time we had the mutiny for bus drivers refusing to go to work because of the situation with roads in the city. It was so bad that they refused to go to work. So basically, after Soviet Union broke down, and what was left was this old Soviet time port infrastructure, and because of political decisions taken, Russia decided not to supply their goods through these old ports, but made their own port, and this traffic amount and prosperity of the city decreased rapidly. And also because of this old infrastructure, we had many serious environment problems and also workforce problems because people were used to operate this old machinery and not very fit for the new age we faced ourselves. So what we did basically, way back in year 2000, we decided that we want to build information society. Then there was not such a term as digital transformation and what we have nowadays, but we decided it's information society. So basically, we thought that we should provide some access to this infrastructure, ICT, this information and communication technologies for everyone, not only to city officials or staff working in the city, but also to all inhabitants. We also wanted to develop this necessary infrastructure, like networks, like computers, software, and we also, of course, wanted to develop these human resources. I'm speaking of city-wide development, not only in thing like municipal stuff. And of course, we wanted to facilitate entrepreneurship and development of all these ICT-related things. And we also wanted to develop some scientific potential, because we understood that at the very beginning, we have less solutions related to government services and municipal services that we like to have. So basically, we established a dedicated municipal institution and called Ventspils Digital Center. And the idea is that this is a physical building in our own town. It was established in the year 2003. And the idea is that there is a physical access for free for every citizen. You see on the bottom picture, everyone can walk in, use anonymous Wi-Fi if he has his own computer or her own computer, but also like a concept is like a digital library. So if you want some let's say some book, you don't have to buy themselves that book to you. You can go to the library and rent or get access to that book for some minutes or hours or days. Similar is here. For example, if some children at school wants to draw chemical formulas, he probably don't know what software to use and why he should buy that software for just drawing few formulas. He can go to Ventspils Digital Center. Somebody will help him orientate which software to use. Software will be pre-installed, so he can do what he wanted and maybe print out or similar, or send it, and the problem will be solved. Such tailored solutions are available for great many applications, and we really think this is one of the best know-hows in Europe. What we have done, and other municipalities can easily replicate it. It won't cost terribly much money to do such things, but it's still very much in use even today. After 20 years, we still have 400 people visiting per day approximately, especially elderly people. They want to pay their bills online. Now there are a few other choices, but they want to be sure that they have printed everything like invoice numbers in the right place, and so the money is not lost. So basically, it's still very popular place. And of course, we run many different courses for adults and children. Basically, municipality has set up like a curriculum starting from preschool children and ending up with Ventspils University postdoctoral studies for every age group and interest group, to have something that they can learn, like digital technologies, digital tool sets, and help themselves to use these technologies smartly, not only to use as social networks, but to use them for work, for education, and self-development. Approximately 2,000 people take part, adults take part in all educational activities we conduct every year. So you can calculate how percentage is from 36,000 total inhabitants, and rather high, I believe. And of course, if this public access is free, then these courses are being paid for some social groups by municipality, but for others it's just they cover these expenses that rises. We don't make any profit out of it. So another plan was set for schools. We have tried for many years to introduce ICT technologies. We started with teachers. We found iceberg, nobody wanted. We even procured a personal computer for every teacher. We fight, let's call it, some 5 years until we got some appreciation from teachers. Right now, in our shared place where all teachers put their materials and whatever is necessary, and they share them among all schools and all teachers. There are 800,000 files different, but it took 13 years to get there. So basically, another aspect we thought, if it's so difficult to fight this iceberg from teachers' side, we should approach children. We thought that it would be much easier. So basically, we decided to develop digital skills, very different areas. Right now, we have 25 different areas and offer these lessons for free for every children in Ventspils. So basically, courses start at September, ends at the end of May, and the rest of the year it's one time per week or 2 times per week. Children come and choose one or more courses which is most interesting for him, like robotics, programming, computer-aided design, 3D computer graphics. At the very beginning, we had this gender imbalance when boys were naturally more attracted to computers, but we developed many courses like digital art, digital photo, video, and right now we have this perfect gender balance. Everyone can find something for his interests. So basically, it took out rocket-like. Now we have 700 children coming every day in this lesson to take these lessons. It's approximately 15% of all school-age children. For kindergartens, we visit them. Every kindergarten has their infrastructure like interactive board, so we can use it. We also have all these small robotics lessons suitable for kindergartens. So we visit them, but starting from first grade, people visit Ventspils Digital Center and now Visium. I will talk about it a bit later. So to engage in all these lessons. We started with digital skills, and then we thought that it's not enough. We should widen our approach to the STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so it took 12 years before we built this building. Approximately, as you can see, Science Center is 4,500 square meters located on first floor. And also there is an innovation center. The idea was that children, and not only children, adults will get some STEM related education and lifelong education in the Science Center, and Innovation Center will be rented out for new enterprises willing to develop some new products, some innovative products. So this is how this is linked together. Right now we have this exhibition. We differ from all other science centers in the way that we treat our exhibits and our visitors. We want them to explore these things that are exhibited more like related to education, not only as fun. For example, we have teaching programs for teachers or different topics. They can come with their classroom, and they can either leave this classroom to our teachers, or they can use whatever we have, these facilities to conduct teaching in our facilities. And this works very well right now. People from all other schools from Latvia and not only Latvia, from Baltic states are coming, and we have 22 different programs related to education, general education. And of course, we are just now developing. It's we opened it 1.5 years ago, so work in progress. and that was basically what I wanted to tell. From I'm ICT related guy, and I wanted to calculate how many different projects and programs we have had, and I counted 25, which I was involved. From basically, yes, it's European Regional Development Fund, URBACT, and also all other, I would say, programs that are available, including scientific ones. We are working together with universities all over Europe to develop some sort of new technologies that we need. We also work together with Norway partners. There is a Norway founding program in Latvia. We work not only to get some money, but also to share what we have. All these solutions and different educational programs and etc. are shared all over Europe. Basically, tens and tens of partners, and we are working continuously in a project. For example, this Visium building, it took 2 regional development programs, projects, and Norway grant project, and I believe 1 or 2 Interreg projects to fit together, and this is how we do. Somebody asked, I would like to comment, somebody asked what it takes to be such an active municipality to get all these projects and etc. I would say that it stems from the top management thinking relatively modern. Think about using, let's say, meeting requests electronically, thinking about how we can use Excel or even such thing like pivot table, maybe not creating one, but at least filtering and seeing things, what's going on. Basically, Ventspils is very much concerned about Excel, not a Word. We want to see numbers, we want to see where we are going, and use these numbers for taking informed decision. Another critical aspect, I would say, is being able to act in teams, so breaking these silos. I know that it's very big problem in very many municipalities all across Europe. Reason I decided to stay in Ventspils was that there were no silo barriers, and still working and with anybody within institution and between institution, we don't have all these silos. And third thing I would say is to have ambitions, because surprisingly many local municipalities, especially small ones, they are just living their daily lives, and they are not setting ambitious goals, ambitious aims, and not fulfilling such. It's hard work. Let's be honest. It's just hard work. So these, I think, are main ingredients that make a active municipality. I would say that in all this central Baltic region, we are one of 3 most active municipalities from my experience, at least in this ICT-related area. And what I would say also as a comment for implementing these projects, that one thing is that we should and keep short list of like-minded municipalities, actors, not only municipalities, NGOs, whatever, universities, teams working somewhere. Just shortlist them and being in this community, make this community and communicate. It's basic for idea generation, basic to establish new project, basic to find some help when you run into problems. Another is that I would say avoid trap of large companies. Europe is plagued with few large service providers in municipal services, and this seriously limit what you can achieve. For example, all Danish transactions in their government e-services portal are being handled by one private Italian company. So they just receive a flat rate and now try to change something or to invent something here. It would be hugely difficult. So basically, you have to see what local resources you have, and you have to nourish these local resources, and just don't trust that there will be some big company coming and doing everything you want. No, they will do everything they want. And the third and most important is measure and ask your citizens. We are hell-bent on measurement and measuring, and we even procure twice a year official like social science related measurements. We do our own questionnaire, and we also measure once a year like this DESI, Digital Economics and Society Index, which is for states, but we just adapted the same methodology to measure our own performance. And we also measure our performance relating to, there was a EU measurement called life quality in European cities. And it was only for capital and large cities. So we also adopted methodology and measure ourselves. So we know both at local level what troubles people, and we know ourselves where we are objectively at European level. So I would say that would be my last hint. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Egons, for sharing so many insights. I've not all of them, so I will share them later. We will have some questions for you, Egons, but before we move on, Andrés, there is one question for you in the chat from Elena, so you can directly respond to this question. And Carlotta, there is one question for you in the questions and answers. Directly, you can directly answer the question as well. Is about the great GRC report. So I've noted many of your insights, Egons, top management, have great teams, network, to be ambitious, to map local resources, and to have like measures and KPI. I think they are very well put together and very relevant. We've seen in the chat many participants were quite impressed with the science centers that you built. You mentioned the different fundings that you leverage, ERDF, Norway, Interreg, right? What were the main challenges to build these science centers through those fundings? Were there any specific challenges? And of course, participants, there is the good practice from the science centers that you can have a look at. And I think, Egons, if you have some links to share more about the science centers, that would be great as well.
Yeah, I put just my email and link to our science center in comments. Please, everybody, feel absolutely free to just write me, ask me whatever questions you are today. It's absolutely no problem making like virtual meeting like we have, and I'm very open to share everything that we have. So that's no problem.
All right, excellent. Yes, okay. Astrid, do you have any questions before we move on? We go directly to panel discussion?
I would think so, yeah.
All right. So let's go to panel discussion. Participants, please use the chat. And Astrid, I'll give you the floor for the panel discussion.
Yeah, I was going to kick off. First of all, again, a big thank you to our panelists for speaking. So I was going to kick off with a similar question that's already in the chat as well. You know, you outlined that you have been using regional funding, Interreg, the Norway fund, etc. Is there any fund that worked particularly well for you, or is there anything missing which you thought would have been good to have? Maybe with that question, I would like to kick off. Maybe we can start with Andrés, since we have just heard from Egons.
Okay, yeah. As I said you before, Canary Island is a specific status in the European Union because of the ultra-peripheric island with Azores, Madeira, and now in the new program we have in the same area, which is called Macaronesia Interreg funds. We have other countries very closer to us, like Mauritania, Senegal, Guinea, Trinidad, Tobago, and others. So this fund is very useful for us because we can cooperate with our neighborhoods. And on the other hand, for us, has been very useful. Even more, we hope that this fund will be useful in the next future too. The European Reconstruction Development Funds, no? Because of they are well focused on the reality of our cities with cohesion, social problems, and needs to growth in a sustainable focus.
And if I may add a second question to that, do you think there is a need for special funds for small urban areas, as like a specific small urban area fund, or can you use the funds which are there, but there is a need for, you know, getting guidance or these kind of things?
Yeah, I think, Astrid, that it could be better if the next calls of the European Unions consider the diversity of the citizens in Europe, because most of times are only regional levels. But in fact, the city level is not in most of the calls. And not only the small, the medium cities are part of the European Union too. But the sense of the calls are complex. For us, I suppose that it's complex for the small too, no? Because you need many partners in different places, different countries. For us, for instance, we live far from Europe, so it's more difficult too. And when the funds arrive to the cities, they are very complex to manage, no? So maybe it could have some specific considerations to this reality, not only in Spain, even more in other countries like Hungary or Latvia or Germany, no?
Yeah, I was thinking of the SME instrument that was made for small and medium-sized enterprises to have something specific which has a relatively easy application, evaluation, on implementation without too complex administration. So maybe something like a SUAS instrument.
It
Let's
could be
see.
nice. It could be nice.
Okay.
Thank you for thinking about it.
Very good. So maybe I can also give the word to Carlotta from your research that you have been carrying out. Did you also have some feedback on these aspects, on the financial instruments that worked well? You said, well, we have seen it also earlier. The ERDF is the most used instrument, and or do you think there is something missing, or there should be a specific tool for small urban areas?
Well, something that has been mentioned before in the comments as well, and that is always through ERDF or other funds, but more specific for small, let's say, communities, is the CLLD that works both with the agricultural fund, but also with the ERDF ESF. So So far, it has been less used in urban areas, but probably it will be more in the current programming period. So I think we will see more CLLD for small urban areas. And I'm looking forward, let's say, to see the practices, how it can be used, because it has a lot of potentiality. And for what concern, so even if I'm not sure that it should necessarily exist a specific instrument. In my view, when designing the policy tools and instruments, policymakers should think about the different needs and priorities of cities at different levels. This, in my view, is a way of doing it. And of course, because someone before mentioned the fact that there is these disparities of the use of ERDF, for example, in the different member states. Another possible solution is when a member state decides to develop a specific national strategy for example, smaller cities. This is another way. And of course, it's a decision to be done at member states level. But for example, it was mentioned before that Poland did the ITI in the past programming period in bigger cities. And in the current programming period, they decided to focus in intermediate cities that are losing their function. So this is possible way to go, depending also on the characteristics and trends of the territories that exist in that specific member state.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting, so how to tailor, for the diversity is as such a huge challenge. And maybe I can just hang on a little question to you. We have seen this, for example, in the housing sector, energy efficiency in buildings, which is also extremely complex, where people don't know where to get the funding from. There's a lot of different funding. There's a lot of technologies around, which people don't know what to choose, and so on and so forth. And there has been a specific tool created called a one-stop shop, where they can get all the relevant information, all the relevant contacts, and they receive a lot of advice and guidance. Would something like that be a good intermediary, for example, for small urban areas, something we could think of?
Well, probably. It depends very much on human communication at the end. Because I have seen such centers which were active and in the center of events and working at local and national and regional level. And I have seen many of such centers being just people sleeping in their workplaces.
Well, that's not the idea of a one-stop shop, but okay. So could be an option, but also asking you, Egons, what I asked Andrés before. You mentioned the different funds you're working with. Do you think there is something missing there? Should there be a different fund available? Should there be something specific? In your view, you have been working on the digital area, but is there something specific that you think that should be done for small urban areas?
Yes, there is one terrible thing missing. And this thing is that there is a new definition in Europe what the city is, and its formal definition. And it basically says that if there is a less than 50,000 inhabitants, then you don't have a city, you have a town. And these towns are usually not included in the list of possible participants in many European programs. So basically, we should, I would say, specifically double check that we include either towns or small urban areas or whatever it's called, but these funds should be available not only for cities as it's now defined, but for other urban areas as well. That is, I think, is major omission right now. Speaking about special fundings for smaller entities, I would say that European bureaucracy is killing it at all levels, and of course smaller municipalities or entities are being most difficult situation because they don't have such an experience of fighting that bureaucracy and living with it, basically, because you can't fight it. So I would say some competence center how to survive bureaucracy would be very helpful.
Thanks, Egons. There's a question or comment in the chat about capacity and small urban areas. As the small urban areas, they often don't have the right capacities, institutional capacity, legal capacities, and so on. Do you have an insight on how to raise this capacity very quickly? Carlotta, Egons, and Andrés. Carlotta first.
Well, JRC in fact is producing several instruments that can be used specifically for sustainable urban development strategies, like handbooks or tools, and it's not just the JRC, but more in general. There are, I would say, take advantage of all of these existing capacity building initiatives at EU level, and take part to the networks. This it's for sure one way of enhancing the capacity. Also the peer reviews that you mentioned before, I think that are very interesting instruments that can be used.
Thanks, Carlotta. Egons, you mentioned breaking silos, have good teams. How did you do it?
Well, we have this capacity, but for startups, I would say jump this language barrier and just hire somebody from EU who has experience running projects, preparing all these different forms, preparing proposals, and just off and go, and that would be easiest way.
What about you, Andrés?
Well, I'm agreeing with Carlotta mainly. I think there are many instruments which we could be improved very easily. So it's better than start a new program now, no?
Thanks, Andrés. Astrid, last insights, concluding remarks before we close this webinar.
Well, I would like to thank you. That was very interesting to see how you are tackling these issues. Let's say, like you had like a huge problem, and then you developed a vision together with your citizens to go ahead. And with a lot of hard work, as you pointed out, Egons, it's not just dreaming about it, but it's really going about it. Setting a target, have a vision, and go about it, and do change something, and then see where you can get the money for it as well. Very interesting approaches also in terms of funding, the sharing the responsibility. If you don't have one person in-house that can fill in all the forms and do the applications, as Andrés was saying, good to share between the different institutions in your territory. How can they all take some of the projects, for example, on board, and you organize a good collaboration between you. So a lot of interesting first approaches, and there is already tools available, as we have pointed out. Use them, and also use programs such as Interreg Europe, which is there for capacity building. So with the projects, but also, for example, with the tools that are offered by the policy learning platform. They're easily accessible. There is not really a lot of red tape that needs to be cut. It's really easy and fast. So yes, I would like to say that we will have a great summary from Arnault with all these interesting points. And we will, of course, share all the information, all the links to interesting studies, handbooks, and guides that we are having. And we hope that you're able to have some good collaboration together. And thanks again also for offering, for being open to collaborate to everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Astrid. Let me also thank our participants for being very active and asking very good questions and being very interested in all of the good practices that we presented. Thanks so much to our speakers, Carlotta, Andrés, Egons. You were very interesting and great, so that was awesome. And thanks to all of you. And of course, use capacity building. We have a policy learning platform, plenty of resources to help you as well in designing and delivering better policies for small urban areas. So please keep in touch with us. We'll provide a short insights article in the coming days, and there will be a survey popping up. And please tell us also what type of topics would you like us to tackle in future policy learning platform events. Thanks so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.